Testing 1, 2, 3. Can y'all hear me? Hi, Trey. Thanks for sharing. Hi, Bay. Lorraine, hello. I'm here, honest. Thanks, Hannah. Appreciate it. There's a whole back end here that you guys don't get to see, but behind this table, there's a mass of cords and iPads, tripods, lights. It's like a technological maze over there. Hi, Susan. Looks like the video is really lagging. At least at my end. Hi again, Kathy. Nice to see you again. Well, nice to see you're typing on the screen.
Nice to see you see me.
From Denmark. Awesome. That's so cool. Hi, Catherine. It's funny, today they've put a computer here so that I can see the screen and read the comments, which I really like because I was telling Matt the other day, it's surprisingly lonely sitting here. So a customer comes in and I'm always like, hi, how are you? Hi, Elsie. Welcome. Can you hear me? Yeah, you need headphones. My headphones have that funny jack. Jay, do you have headphones? Something we can plug in to dull the sound on the iPad. Oh, cool. Pam's here from the UK. Welcome, Pam. What time is it there? You've got to be, 8 hours ahead or something? Anne-Marie, welcome. Hi. Oh, it's so nice to see everybody who's here watching. Gosh, I'm dramatic when I watch myself on screen. I'm like... Karen from Missouri, welcome. Hi, Jill. Hi, Terry. Pat in Minnesota, hello. Just grabbing some chapstick, guys, before my lips fall off. Am I back on? Okay. Hi, Claudia. Rosa, hi from Regina. And Sherry, hello. Well, welcome, everybody. Well, we're 10:40, so we may as well get started. Welcome to our Sparrow Quilt Company Stash Busters series. My name is Bradie, and we are going to be working on this really awesome quilt that you see on display here behind me. It's called Stay Centered. If you are interested in that free pattern, you can visit our website at sparrowquiltco.com, and you can download that free pattern. When you get to the website, you're going to see a picture of me going like that. You're going to click on my face. It'll take you to a new page where you can put in your email address, and we will send you an email with the pattern attached so that you can follow along with the fun that we're having. We've been making this great and easy log cabin quilt, which is all 2.5-inch strips. So what's really great about that is if you have a jelly roll or a couple of jelly rolls in your stash, you can easily use those up. If you want to just use up yardage or scraps or bits or pieces, you can use those too. The only requirement is that they're 2.5 inches wide. Your smallest piece is going to be 2.5 inches square, so that's a pretty manageable piece, wouldn't you say? So how's your weather where you are, everybody? We have descended into a deep freeze. We've got minus 24 here this morning. That's Celsius for you Americans. I think at minus 40 we are par, and that means we are really darn close to minus 40. Once you get that wind chill factor in there, let's just say the kids are not going out for recess these days. So that's why I got my lumberjack coat on today. It's a bit warm in here though, so you may see me appear to strip down and take off my clothing. Anyways, the last time we were sewing, we were working on the other blocks, and Landon is showing them to you there on the left-hand side. Maybe, Elle, you could move the pattern. I've got my daughter Landon here as well. There she's waving. So feel free to write any questions or comments that you would like to have an answer to, and we will be sure to try and address those as we go along. All right. Claudia from Germany. Boy, we've got a lot of Europeans today. Welcome, everybody. It's really great to have you watching. 5:30. Nice. Okay, I'm going to stop reading the comments and I'm going to get busy. Now, as usual, we've got a fun giveaway. Today, I'll be showing you how to use these shortly, but this is the Ideal Seam Guide, and this is the Ideal Seam Gauge, and you saw me last time using these to make sure that I've got a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you are interested at all in winning that prize, it's the pair of them together. What I need you to do is share this video. So underneath the video, you're going to see a share link, and you're just going to click that, and it'll share with all your friends on Facebook, and hopefully that will interest them to come and see the fun that we're having in making this quilt here together. So we'll get started with that. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this thing right now.
I'm assuming that's Fahrenheit.
Oh, geez, I don't even know the conversion. 60. That does sound pretty warm, though, still. Yeah. Or is that cool?
I think it's probably like...
We think in Celsius up here. It's so funny when I have the doors open.
It's close to 60 and she has the doors open.
So maybe it's a bit muggy. Anyways, I used to work in a restaurant, and one of our customers was from the States, and it was so hot. It was plus 30 Celsius. And the customer said, "What's the temperature?" And I told her, and she said, "Can you please tell me what that is in the real temperature?" Because she thought in Fahrenheit, and she had no idea what plus 30 meant. So we had to convert it for her. And that mathematic is long gone out of my brain. So anyways, what I have laid out here, Elle, are you able to show this over here in the middle of the table?
Can I slide this out?
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to be making the log cabin that you can see there on the left-hand side. You can do it? All right. Thanks, Landon. Oh, so we got to...
Fingers on it.
Just waiting for someone to split the screen for us there so you can have a peek at what I'm going to be working on today. Raining in Oregon. Oh, I love the West Coast. We used to live in Vancouver and out on the island in Victoria, and it was so beautiful there. It still gets cold though, you know, even though it doesn't snow very much, you get lots of rain and it still feels chilly, but not the same as here, and you don't have to shovel that darn rain.
You've got your pattern there now?
Pattern? Yes. So as I mentioned, we're working on this stay-centered pattern, which you can get at sparrowquiltco.com. Maddie, are you going to split the screen for a second so we can show this? Oh, it's not showing on my side. All right. Anyways, we are just going to start in the center and we're going to work our way out. I'm going to start by taking my neutral square and I'm going to sew that little orange square to it. But before I begin, I want to make sure that I've got a good seam allowance set up. I don't know about you, but I find it hard to stay on track with just my regular 1/4 inch foot. I think we're okay there, Noelle, if you want to put that away. When you've got your 1/4 inch foot and you're sewing alongside that, oh, there we go. Now you can see it. Good. Right, the video is just that far behind me. Anyways, when you're sewing with your 1/4 inch foot and you're trying to keep your fabrics lined up with that outer edge of your 1/4 inch foot, it gets tiring. I find it to get tiring. My eyes get tired and I find like it's a lot of effort to keep things lined up with that constantly. So the whole idea of this seam gauge is that it's got a sticky layer on the back so I can adhere it to my sewing machine bed. And then when I'm sewing, all my sewing is done up against this little barrier. And the great thing about that is that it cannot go off track. Now, I've told you this story before about my little Sophie. She is 10 years old and she loves to sew, but she is nosy. She's like me, very nosy, maybe has that fruit fly brain that I've mentioned before. So when she's sewing, she's looking around like this and she's watching customers and she's talking to people. And when she uses her ideal seam guides, she is still able to get that perfect 1/4 inch. And when we threw her quilt onto the frame for her to long arm it, it laid so nice and flat. We were really, really surprised. But the good thing is that this is a great tool for even an experienced sewer. It's a really great tool for a beginner sewer because it just helps you stay on track. So the second part of that tool is the ideal seam gauge. And what is valuable on here is that it's got all these different seam allowances. And what you do is you drop your needle in one of these little holes, press it under or put it under your presser foot, and you just drop your needle right into that hole, lower your presser foot, and that holds that gauge in place for you. And then that's when you bring the second part, I've already got it on there, you would peel that plastic off the back and you would just adhere that to your sewing machine bed lined up with the outer edge of that gauge. Once you've got this in place, you are then going to remove this and just do all your sewing up against that guide. So again, a really handy set of tools. If you're interested in winning those, in order to be entered into the draw, you're going to share this video and that will give you a chance to win. And now, I'm getting cold, so I'm just going to throw this baby over my shoulders while I get some sewing done. Now I've already lined up my first 2 pieces and I am ready to get sewing. Now I have fiddled with my table so it's way too high. And this is my Elite work table. It's a cutting surface, it's a work surface, it's really very versatile. I can do lots on this surface. Right now it is high because I was cutting yesterday standing, and now what I want to do is lower this end of my table so that I can sit and sew. Nope. Clearly I don't know my left from right, so now we've determined that I'm at the right end of the table. I'm lowering the right end of the table, and that's going to give me a really great angle so that I can sew without any strain to my neck and shoulders. And we all know that's a good thing. It gives us more sewing time if we enjoy it and we aren't in pain. And don't worry, I've got my non-slip pad underneath my machine so it cannot go anywhere. Even if I try to throw it off the table, it's not going anywhere. And today I am doing my sewing on a little Eversewn Sparrow 20. No, we did not have these machines made for us. The Eversewn company innovated these machines and came up with that name themselves, and because they shared a name with us, the last name Sparrow, we decided we needed to carry them in our store, and we really like these little machines. The first job I did on one was bind a queen-size quilt, and it held up really well. It's a great machine for its price point. All right. Have any of you been holding your threads to the back of the machine since I gave you that tip the other day? I was telling everybody how I always hold my threads to the back. That helps prevent any tangling up or birds' nests, trouble. Nobody wants trouble when they're sewing. When you start having trouble in your sewing, it's time to take a break. What's that?
It says they hate shoveling rain.
Me too. I never want to do that. All right, so I want to make sure I've got a good variety. The pieces that I'm piecing right now, I'm working on orange, so I am piecing this little center neutral to the little 2.5-inch square print, and I'm going to be making 4 of those. So I've got 2 so far, but I don't want them all to be the same. Try and mix it up, make it a little bit more interesting. Now this one's a solid, and someone taught me a tip once about how to determine what's the right side of fabric, say with a batik or a solid. And the trick was that you would hold it and you would hold it on like the diagonal and you would pull it. And this little tip was supposed to push to one side or the other, and that revealed the right or wrong side. But do you think I can remember? Nope. Would have been nice to share with you though, wouldn't it? Okay, so there's 3. Did I do this wild and crazy one yet? Nope. Let's do this kind of textured solid. I like that. Sometimes I find it really challenging to just reach into the pile and grab a random one. I really like to plan it and make sure that 2 similar fabrics aren't right beside one another, but sometimes you just got to let that go. Okay, so I've got all 4 of those pieced, and I did a little bit of chain piecing there where I would not cut my thread, but I would just carry on to the next piece. And I really like doing it that way because it makes it a little bit easier to work. It saves on thread, and it also makes it easy for me to press it when I bring it over to my pressing station. Now over here, I've got my handy dandy little roundabout table. So this one has a rotating base, and I actually don't need the cutting portion on there, but this is a cutting mat, so it's safe to use your rotary cutter on there. And it's got, when I square these blocks all up a little bit later in the Stash Buster series, I'm going to be using this to square them up. And it's really handy because you can just spin it and you don't actually have to lift your block. But we'll talk more about that another day. So when I go to press...
Someone says their hardest struggle is deciding the right or wrong side using solids.
Yeah.
Do you think it matters if you use the right side in one place or the other side in another?
It's really hard to tell the difference between the right or the wrong side of a solid. Sometimes you'll notice that it's one side seems a little bit shinier than the other. I usually use that to be my right side, but I don't know. This one, there's really no real distinguishing features on the right side, so I'm just going to use whatever side lands up. Okay. So we're going to press these open, and with this block, I'm always pressing away from center. And right now, it turns out that I'm pressing towards my darker fabrics or my orange fabrics. But first, I always set my seam with the iron while the piece is still closed, and then I push it open and I press really, really well right along that seam line. And I'm very careful to make sure I'm opening it up as full as I can. I don't want any roll in that seam there. That decreases my accuracy. I really want these to finish at 2.5 by 4.5, and I'm looking pretty darn good there, I gotta say so myself. Okay, let's put this baby back on. All right, so I've got 4 of those. Now I am going to add my next log, which is my 4.5. So I always put my solid piece on the bottom. I like my seam to be on top, and that way I have more control over the direction that the seam goes. I've taken the effort to push it towards the orange fabric. I want it to stay there. And I find sometimes if I sew with that seam down, my feed dogs push it the other way. So if I sew it with that seam up, then I've got much better luck at controlling the direction it's going. I think I need a chair with wheels. Next time I'm going to have a chair with wheels. There we go. There's one down. I'm going to use this wild and crazy one next. I really love this cotton and steel print. It's a bit wild and crazy, like I said. Okay. Let's go ahead and run that one through. Oh, look at those dots. Aren't those cute? Okay, what did we use here? Texture, cotton, and steel. Let's go with the solid this time.
Would it be hard to make this quilt larger?
Oh, you know, I don't think it would be hard. You could certainly just add another row. I mean, bring in one more color, or maybe do a blue and then a dark blue on this side. You could absolutely make it one row bigger. You would just have to say double your fabric requirements for one of the rows, or double your fabric requirements for the whole quilt and just go a lot bigger. It's fairly simple, this quilt, and it's not huge. It's 60 by 70, so I like that size for, say, a beginner because it's an attainable goal. It's not going to take them their whole life to piece that. And I think especially for beginners, it's important to do something that you will actually finish so that you don't feel discouraged. Because we want to encourage people to keep sewing. All right, so now I am going to piece all these guys, and I just leave them all chained together because it's a little bit easier to control everything. I got it wound all over the place, this cord. I don't even know what I did when I set that up. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. We are streaming live from our quilt shop here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where the weather is a lovely -24 outside. So we have got the heat cranked and we're all in sweaters today. We usually stream on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We just began this fun project last week. And so currently that's our goal, to be Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I don't think we'll be streaming this Friday as we have Natalia Bonner coming up from Utah. Woohoo! Super excited. It probably won't be me streaming live, but maybe we'll try and sneak in a little bit of Natalia's class. She sent me some handouts just a few minutes ago, and she said, if it looks silly, I'm sorry. I really like to have fun in my class. And I said, that's good. We're not very good at being serious up here. So you're welcome to bring your fun attitude. That is welcome anytime. All right, so here I've got 2 pieces put around my center. Now I'm going to add this one on next. I'm going to put these little guys out of the way for a few minutes. Hi, Alberta.
Any tips for keeping colored fabrics from shadowing behind lighter white?
So that gets more challenging, Alberta, of course, when we get into the neutral blocks. But here I am always pressing towards the dark side. And geez, I sounded a bit like Darth Vader there. And I'm trimming my threads as I go, always trimming my threads as I go. I've had the odd quilt where, say, in this example here, the red fabric had frayed and started showing under the white fabric. So if we trim our threads before we start the quilting process or the long arming, then it is going to help prevent that. I teach or I used to teach the long arm beginner class, and I would always ask people to trim their threads on the back side of their quilt before they came in. And one student came back for her rental session, and she told me she had spent 3 hours the night before trimming threads. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's not at all what I meant. Just trim the stuff that's going to haunt you. The red beside white or the purple beside white, the things that are going to really show. All right, so what I'm trying to show you here is how well my pieces are fitting together. My ideal seam guide is keeping me really nice and precise so that my piecing doesn't get a little bit smaller, and it still fits the pieces that I've cut, which is a good thing. And if you are at all interested in the Ideal Seam Guide, you're just going to share this video with your friends and you will be entered to win that prize, which we will give away at the end. So what I try to remind myself about a log cabin is that I'm going around in a circle each time. So this was 1, this was 2, so my next side, the third, is going to be over here. Again, that fits just right. There we go. All right. And the next one goes like this. Hi, Linda. Thanks for watching again. Not every day, not me every day. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we stream from the Long Arm Lounge upstairs, where our nephew Dylan finishes customer quilts, and where the renters go upstairs to finish their quilts. We've got the long arm rental program here where you can come in and finish your quilts yourself. First, you got to take a class and learn how to do everything and prepare your quilt and all that sort of stuff. And then you can come here and actually use the long arms yourself. Now, here's a tip. The other night I was sewing at home and I didn't check any of my threading, and I sewed, I'm going to estimate about 10 pieces or so. And then I picked it up and I looked, and my thread, my stitches looked terrible. I had dots showing through on one side, so clearly my tension was not balanced. So, of course, I just unthreaded my machine and restarted again. But my advice to you is sew a single piece and then check your tension so that you don't have to re-sew 10, which is always better to check it sooner rather than later. All right, so here we are pressing again. Today I've got this little Oliso iron, and I really like this one because it's got these cool little feet, so when I put it down, it just raises up off the surface. You could literally forget about it and walk away, and your fabric underneath would be safe. I don't recommend forgetting about your iron and walking away, but I think that's really nice and handy, a nice handy feature. At home, I've got a $14 iron from Walmart. I don't know why. Does
it work?
Big spender. I really like it. And the reason I like it, I always look for an iron that's got holes around the outer edge. I don't want all my steam just coming from the middle because I tend to use the edges a lot more than the middle of my iron. So that's my requirements when I look for an iron, is holes around the outer edge and a non-stick surface. And obviously, I'm not in the business of selling irons because I'm actually promoting this $14 iron from Walmart. It doesn't stick to nothing. It cleans up really nice. And it's got holes around the outer edge. So, okay. So we're just coming back to Alberta's question, and that was any tips for keeping colored fabrics from shadowing behind the lighter or white fabrics. And I think that's a great question. What Alberta's talking about is when we have these lighter colored fabrics, sometimes if the seam is pressed towards the lighter colored fabric, you'll see this little shadow around the outer edge. And in a block like this, I can't avoid that. It's white on white or cream or whatever we've got going on here. And you can see the seams a little bit, but when we've got a darker fabric next to a very high contrast lighter fabric, we can press the seams out or towards the darker fabric, and hopefully that will avoid any shadowing of the seams specifically. Another issue that happens is our blocks and our fabric start to fray. The fabric starts to kind of come undone, so to speak, and then that fray will, I'm going to put it over onto here. This light thread, you won't see that under the orange, but if that was an orange thread under the white, you would actually see that through the fabric. So I suggest trimming those, clipping those, and anything that's going to haunt you. I certainly don't want it to consume you or take up half of your life of trimming threads, but do your best to get rid of that stuff that you may see later on once your quilt is quilted. We know a quilter named Joan, and she has this like microscopic little tip crochet type hook, and one time there was a very thick thread underneath some white, and she was able to like maneuver this micro crochet hook in and actually looped that big thick thread right out, and it was thick, like almost like a cording type of thread. Anyways, if you're really determined, you can get them out. And I suggest using the finest, say, crochet hook that you can. You would just want to carefully part the fibers as best you can without tearing or ripping. Any other questions going on there?
Does the iron stay hot when you set it back down?
Yes. Does my iron stay hot when I set it back down? It sure does. I believe, though, that it has a timer of sorts and will just shut off after 15 minutes of inactivity or something like that. However, 15 minutes is plenty of opportunity for bad things to happen, so please don't leave your irons unattended. I am not promoting that in any way, shape, or form. That is my disclaimer for the day, until something else happens. All right, so I've yet to use my dots on this one, and you can see it's pretty obvious which side I'm going to be attaching to now. And, you know, we talked a little bit about solids and choosing the right side up, but I have sewn prints in the wrong side up plenty of times, more than I'm willing to admit. So be careful, make sure that you've got your fabrics the right side up or right sides facing. Unless the back side is just right, then use it. Who cares? It's your fabric. You paid for it. So we'll go ahead and sew this again. There we go. Now, the other day I was talking about how I usually prepare all my pieces ahead of time and I have them lined up. I'm not doing a very good job of that today. The fruit fly in me is strong today, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So when I'm sewing, my table is usually just covered in little prepared pieces like this, and I just grab them and throw them under there. And then it seems to make my job feel a little bit easier. I like to do a lot of one thing and then break it up and do a little bit something else, so I don't get bored. Pardon me. All right. Now, for those of you that are just tuning in, this is our Sparrow Quilt Company Stash Buster series, and we are working on this great quilt behind me. It's called Stay Centered, and it's designed by our very own Sheila Vanderlinden. And for those of you who are local, we're really excited to say that Sheila is coming back to join us here at the South Side next Monday, January 15th. So don't worry, you'll still get to see our wonderful Sheila. She's so sweet, and we can't wait to have her back. Anyways, you can visit our website, sparrowquiltco.com. You're going to see a picture of me. Oh, I love this pattern. And you're going to click on my face, go to the next page, put in your email address, and we'll send you an email with this pattern attached so that you can follow along. The size of this pattern is 60 by 70. It requires fat eighths and fat quarters. If you don't know what a fat eighth is, it's just half of a fat quarter. And you can literally just use up fabric out of your stash. If you don't have a big stash but you still want to follow along, then we have the Stay Centered quilt kits for sale at sparrowstudios.com as well. And you could also, use some jelly rolls out of your stash. It doesn't have to be organized by color. Do it scrappy. Do it however you want. It's your quilt and you have my permission to do that. All right, here we go. Good. So I'm a big fan of trimming my threads as I go. I don't know about you, but like we talked about earlier, with threads showing underneath a lighter fabric, I think that that just saves me a little bit of trouble later. I don't like threads hanging off, just kind of bugs me, but I'm picky that way sometimes. But it just gives me less work to do later. So here I am just setting that seam. I press just the thread into the fabric and it kind of presses it down. When you open that up, you want to make sure that it's opened fully. And from my side, when I open it up, I can almost see my stitches just a little bit. I don't want to be stretching that thread by any means, but I do want that fabric to be open as much as it possibly can. Hey, Brendan. So when you sew together two pieces that are 2.5 inches and you open them up, in theory, that should measure 4.5 across. If we don't open it all the way, then we're going to end up with not 4.5, but like 4 3/8, 4 1/4 sometimes, maybe if we were not quite accurate with our seam allowance. And then when you go to put everything together, stuff doesn't fit. Now that can be frustrating. It's not the end of the world by any means. I will usually just trim up all my blocks upon completion to make sure that everything is the same size. So if all my blocks finished around 10.5, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, then I will usually try to trim them all to the smallest. Unless I've really botched the job, and then I will kind of fudge it a little bit to make it work. And I showed you a little bit of how I make it work in my last video, and I'm sure I will show you more as we move along. But if you're interested in that, go to our Stash Busters page on sparrowquiltco.com or scroll down here on the Facebook page and you will find the prior videos so you can see what else we've talked about and other tips that I've given. So this is called a roundabout. And it is my little rotating ironing board. To be truthful, it is a rotating base. So that's the base, and it's got this little guy that, it's like a turntable, like an old school record player. And then I can put my ironing surface on it. And when I am ironing something, I can just spin the whole table. I also have a cutting mat surface that can go on there as well. And so I can rotate my cutting mat. And this is just a cool, handy, and neat ironing and cutting surface. This would be great to take to retreat as well. It would be very versatile. Though you certainly wouldn't be cutting any big stuff on that cutting surface that I just showed you. It's not huge. But it is a good size, though, I gotta say. All right, so I've now got those pressed open. I am loving these orange blocks. How about you guys? Do you like orange? It's so bright and sunny, and I tell you, we could use that today with this deep freeze outside.
Danny says he loves that workstation you're sewing on.
Oh, I like it too, Danny. It's pretty great. Have you seen how the table raises and lowers? This is an electric lift, so it is, I guess the advantage to an electric lift over a hydraulic lift is there's no oil in the lift itself, and it's nothing that can ever leak. This table can hold up to 350 pounds. Now, in a quilt shop, I could see you reaching that goal very quickly because fabric is heavy. But like at home, when would you ever have 350 pounds on your table? Like when... let's pile all the kids on it and we'll raise and lower and give them a fun ride. Be like an elevator. Thanks, Danny. Okay, so now all 4 sides are done. Danny, is that you from Martelli? Now I'm watching the comments. Anyways, yeah, I'll bet you love the table if it's you. Anyways. So I've got my center, I've added this guy, and we just continue to go around. Now I'm back to this side, and I am now looking for a 6.5 inch strip. I've got a lot of this textured orange in this one, so I need to bring in a bit more variety. Remember I told you I struggled with just reaching into the pile and grabbing? I just have to. Thanks, Linda. I've got a little bit of a twitch. I need it to all be sorted just right. Otherwise, I've got a real problem. Clearly, my sewing is off. Just kidding. I've grabbed the wrong size. Where am I at here? Oh, goodness. Here she is with her fruit fly brain. Or, as Annie from the UK tells me, I'm a butterfly thinker. That just sounds so much nicer, doesn't it? All right, so I've got that lined up. I'm going to put this one under my presser foot, and then I will... Huh? At what height should you be while sitting at your machine? Oh, that is a really great question, Wendy, and I think that it varies for everybody. So Wendy wants to know, what is the ideal height when you're sitting at your sewing machine? I find often my chair is too low, so I have to bring my chair up. I don't want to be sewing like this. You can just see from the position of my arms and shoulders that I'm going to be in pain in no time at all. I just want to be comfortable. I don't want to have to be straining or lifting too much. So I think that varies for everybody. I do highly recommend having a chair with an adjustable height so that you can set it to just whatever you're working on. Sometimes I'm higher, sometimes I'm lower. It depends on what I'm working on, really, to be honest. Thanks for your question, Wendy. That was a good one. All right, I've got all my fabrics in this one. What am I going to add next? This shouldn't be so stressful. Oh, goodness, look at those line up. I am so proud. Gosh, I'm a good sewer today. I'll line that up there for now. And next, here's my side I'm attaching on. Ooh, all I have left is orange dots. That means my orange dots are going to touch. I'm going to have to live with it, guys. It's not the end of the world, is it? Nope. Nobody's going to die because my two fabrics are touching each other. All right. Now, when you sew, guys, do you backstitch at the beginning and the end? Do you do that little bit of back and forth to lock your beginning and ending? I do when I'm long arming, absolutely. But not when I'm here at my domestic machine. I don't know about you, but I find it kind of bunches, and I don't like that because I'm picky. And it's my quilt. I'm allowed to be picky if I want. You're allowed to be picky on your quilts too. You can also choose not to be picky. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, which I think is so important to recognize. Quilting isn't about perfection. Humans aren't perfect. Why should quilts be? I think as long as you're making them and having fun, giving them with love, that's what matters. Okay, we're almost done now. Here we go. Good. Okay. So that one is done. And of course, I'm going to trim my beginning and my ending. And then I'll press them while I still have them chained together. I don't know why. It just feels easier. They're getting to a bigger piece now, bigger size, so I can only do one at a time. But like I said earlier, we're going to set that seam first, and then we'll open that up. Now, I told you guys in my last video about an article I wrote regarding thread weight. It's on my blog called Quiltcetera. I think it's quiltcetera.wordpress.com. Gosh, I hope it's still there. It's been a long time. But anyways, there's an article there where I talked about thread weight in piecing, and I do recommend using a 50 weight because it is the finest and it takes up the least amount of room in your seam. But if you're curious about how I came to that conclusion, you could certainly look that up and have a peek. That kind of experiment came about as a result of sewing on someone else's machine, and their thread was so thick. And when I opened this up, my width of my piecing wasn't what it should be. And I was very careful to use my scant 1/4 inch because I always use a scant 1/4 inch. So I was curious as to what had caused that. And it was the thicker thread, I'm sure of it. It just takes up more room when we open that up. Okay. So here we go. So I've sewn on this side. That means this side is next. And what are we going to put on here now? Now we're into our 8.5 inch wide logs. And if you're just joining us, we are working on the Stay Centered pattern, this awesome log cabin pattern that you see behind me here. And you can find that at sparrowquiltco.com. Just go there and enter your email address and you can get that quick download. How are we doing for time? 11:20? Okay, it's almost time for a little break. Before I go on my quick break, because I will be back, I want you guys to share this video because that's going to enter you in a draw to win these great tools, the Ideal Sewing Gauge and the Ideal Seam Guide, which I am using to keep my 1/4 inch scant and very accurate. And after we spend this money on fabric, after we put the time and effort into preparing it for sewing, it's worth the effort to keep your things nice and precise so that you get a beautiful end result. All right, so go ahead and share this video. I'm going to take a quick potty break and I will be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, guys, don't go anywhere. I'll see you really, really soon. Good. Hi, everybody. Bev, I'll get to your question in just a moment, okay? About the ideal seam guides. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Sparrow Quilt Company Stash Buster series. Being as it's January, we are really embracing an effort to use up what we've got, and I know that January is a time for using up what you've got and being frugal, so we are still wanting to keep quilting, and just because we can't shop doesn't mean we can't quilt. So you can go into your quilt room and pull out a bunch of your favorite fabrics. Then you're going to go to Sparrow Quilt Co. and you're going to download this free pattern. It's called Stay Centered. Front page of the website, you're going to see me going, I love this pattern. And you're going to click on my homely little face and you're going to go to the next page and you're going to put in your email address and we are going to send you an email with that pattern attached to it, okay? And then you're going to get busy chopping up all your fabric into 2.5-inch strips so you can join me in the fun. And if you are just not ready to bust into your stash yet, you are welcome to just watch and have fun with us. That is okay too. We'll be doing a different quilt every single month. Pardon me, my goodness, too much coffee today, hence the potty break. One last thing before I get to Bev's question. Have you shared the video yet? Do you want to be entered for the Ideal Seam little mini package I've got offered here today? This is the Ideal Seam gauge, which helps us set our proper seam allowance, and we can go anywhere from 1/8 of an inch all the way up to a 1.5-inch seam allowance. I wonder what you would use 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for. If anybody knows, I want you to leave a comment for me and tell me, huh? Darts. Ooh, Landon says darts maybe. Like pin tucks or something. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so Landon has suggested that maybe pin tucks would be a good use for 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. But anyways, so that's how you're going to set your seam allowance. And then this is the Ideal Seam Guide. It has a sticky layer. Huh? Miniature, yeah, really mini. Sticky layer on the back of rubberized adhesive. You're just going to peel off that acetate and you're going to stick this onto your machine bed and you're going to do all your sewing right up against that barrier. It's like the Great Wall of Sewing. It just keeps you on track. So Bev's question is now gone from the screen. She had asked, what is the best option for purchasing the Ideal Seam Guide? There is a package there. It has got a ruler that is 15 inches long, a ruler that is 10 inches long, plus the gauge. It is a really good package for when you're sewing with an extension table. You need that longer surface to sew up against. And you can also use these for smaller bits and pieces. Let's say I was making some half square triangles and I didn't want to mark the back side of them all. I could use the sticky on the back and adhere to it just like this. And then I would sew along here. I would remove this, flip it around, and then I would sew a second time along here. And then when I had my 2 stitching lines, imagine them with me because we cannot see them. If I had my 2 stitching lines up here and then I would just trim up the center and it saves you a lot of time. There's all kinds of great uses for the Ideal Seam Guide package. I would start with whatever you're comfortable with. I guess it's going to depend on your needs. If you just have a small sewing bed, then perhaps this little featherweight, the 5-inch seam guide is the best option for you. There's also one there called the Student Edition, and that is excellent for beginner sewers. And if you do a lot of sewing and say a lot of half square triangles, then that larger package would be ideal for you. I hope that helped all my rambling there, Bev. And like I mentioned earlier, if you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. The guys in the back put them up on the screen nice and big so I can see them with my old lady eyes, and I try to address your questions. All right. I like that. The 1/8 of an inch seam allowance suggested by, is it Anna, you said? Is for fudging, and I like that. I do a lot of fudging, Anna, so I'm going to give that a try. Oh, that's great, Mary. I think you're going to love them too. They're really, really a great handy tool. I think the video you're referring to is the one we filmed at the Houston Quilt Show. Landon and I were down there and we saw Steve and Luann. Luann is the innovator of the seam guides. Steve is her husband. The two of them are just the most wonderful, adorable couple I've ever met. Kind, wonderful people. I love them to death. Not to death. I just love them. Love them a lot. Steve recently had hip replacement surgery, I guess, and he is a champ. Back up and already getting into trouble. Oh, geez, you guys. I thought I was missing pieces, but look, I've got them all on display right here in the middle of the table. Fruit fly brain again. I tell you, it's an affliction. I'm not kidding. Okay, so my next log that I'm going to be sewing on to my log cabin here is the 8.5-inch size. So I am going to lay this out corner to corner, and I'm still matching up. I'm still matching up. I'm so grateful when I match up because I don't like to trim. It feels like it feels like more work. And yes, it is absolutely more work, but sometimes it's worth it to get the precision that I'm after. I've told you guys before that if I make a mistake, I will undo it and I will try again. I will try a maximum of twice. So that's 2 edits. I'll do it the first. I'll fix it once. I'll fix it twice. If it's not good after the second fix, it stays in the quilt. I don't care. A little bit of humility in there never hurt anybody. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't ever point out my mistakes. At least I do my best not to point out my mistakes. I think if a person has gone to the effort of making an entire quilt, that in itself should be worthy of some sort of praise. Where am I at here? Okay, so here's how I'm staying on track. I look for my center. I know I've done 1, 2, 3, 4. Here was my next one, so this will be, I'm just going to keep going around my log cabin, okay? So my next piece is going to go across the top here. I'm going to put my orange dots here so that they don't have to touch my other orange dots. You guys saw the last time that happened. My eye started twitching. Yes, Marianne, you absolutely can. Marianne is asking, can she get the pattern that is behind me? It's called Stay Centered, Marianne. You're going to go to sparrowquiltco.com and you are going to click on my face. It'll take you to another page where you'll put your email address in. We'll send you an email. The pattern will be attached, okay? And that is a free pattern that you are welcome to download. Okay, here's number 2. Did you all share the video? It's going to enter you in the draw for the prize. And we will announce that here at noon my time. I don't know what time it is where you are. All you European ladies, is definitely later. There we go. Up here. Good. I'll figure it out. I won't stop till I figure it out. My sewing machine is called an Eversewn Sparrow 20. And it is a great little machine. We've got them on the website there at sparrowquiltco.com. There's 3 different levels there on our website. We're excited to bring in the newest Sparrow. It's called the Sparrow 30, and it's just got more bells and whistles. It's a great machine for its price point. I really, really like these little Sparrow machines. When we were in Houston, in the Brewer booth, Brewer is the distributor, they had one of these Sparrow machines running, just constantly running. So they had taken off all the covers so that you could see that the inside is all metal parts. And the good thing about all metal parts is that they're going to last longer. If you've got gears and stuff that are made of plastic, inevitably something is going to wear out and break. Metal, it's far less likely. So you are purchasing a machine that's going to last you a long time, even though it's a nice, affordable machine. So they had this sewing arm removed. And that's a nice feature that you are able to remove that. We quilters don't use this feature very often, but if you were a garment sewist and you wanted to do the cuff of your jacket or blouse, you need to be able to sew circular. So anyways, the point of my big, long, drawn-out story here, they had this piece of denim.
Someone says, I just love the way you explain everything.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that because I talk way too much. So that's very kind of you. Anyways, so this piece of circular denim, it was just a tube of denim, and it just sat there sewing all day. And ooh, the static. Remember when we touched it? It was so staticky because it just kept going all darn day. And anyways, I was really impressed with the quality of the machines. I already carried them at that point in time. We already had them in the shop. Of course, if you see something on the market that has your name on it, Sparrow, you got to bring it in and carry it. Now, if you don't know about us, we are the Sparrow family. We own a quilt shop here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where it is currently minus 24. That's why I've got my lumberjack coat on today. My husband Matt and I own this quilt shop. Our oldest daughter Landon works here with us, her fiance Ryan, our next daughter Tylee, our son Gage, Gage's girlfriend. It's a whole real true family business. My dad works here, our nephew, our niece Estelle. I could go on for days about all the relatives that work here for us. But anyways, that's a little bit about me. Matt and I have 10 children in total. When we began this business, we only had 7 or 8. But anyways, we've now grown our collection to 10. And yes, I know you're all thinking it, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer it. All 10 children of those have passed through this body, and their father, Matt, he's father of all of them. I know you're thinking it, so I'm just going to go ahead and address it. All right, guys. Oh, I thought my stitches were bad, but they're good. Hi, baby. That's my Maddie. All right, so now I'm getting to the size where I can only press one at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and set that seam. Oh, I'm getting a hot flash from that hot boy that was just here kissing me. Press that open along that seam really well.
On the camera.
Have you got something?
I'm going to put that on the camera.
This? Sure, go ahead. All right, I'm going to take this off for a second. I literally did break out into a sweat. Not that any of you want to know that. Okay. So I set the seam. Louise has never made a log cabin, but wants to make one when she gets her 2 quilts finished. Good for you, Louise. They're nice. They're easy. I love a log cabin for beginners because it's just all straight lines and it's just repetitive sewing, that practice of keeping your seam allowance. It's a good quilt for a beginner. Now, when I am pressing lots, I will typically stack them on top and just continue to press, well, not this high up, but I'm going to put another layer on top, and I'll maybe go 10 pieces tall. But I just really like that extra reinforcement of pressing on top, and those bottom ones just get really nice and flat. And remember, when you're pressing, to truly press, it's a press and a lift type action, you don't need to iron, because the ironing sways your fabric, maybe stretches it even sometimes, and often things don't end up as square as they should. So we just want to lift and press. All right, I'm really getting somewhere now. Okay, so I need to keep myself on track. Here's my center. I've got 2 logs on this side of center. I've got 2 logs on this side of center. Here I've only got 1, so that's going to be my next. And what should we do now? I think I'm going to do this one now. They're going to touch again, guys, but I think I'll be okay. Oh, see that? Wrong side up. Now here, finally, it's starting to happen just a wee tiny bit. If I line up this corner here is off about an eighth of an inch. So then when I sew this on and I open it up, this edge is going to hang over just a little tiny bit. So I have the option, I can either center it and let it hang over a hair on both sides, or I can just let it all hang off the one side. That's what I'm going to choose to do. I may as well keep this side square and trim this side if needed. And that is okay. I think it's darn near impossible to piece a whole quilt and be perfect. Perfect is not my goal. I do want to put in a good effort to be precise, but I am still human, and I talk a lot, so I'm not always paying as much attention as I should. So I hope you guys will continue to watch us. We are going to do our Stash Buster series videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Perhaps not this Friday because we do have Natalia Bonner coming. She's going to be here for 2 days teaching. Day 1 will be a piecing class. Day 2 will be a quilting class. Hopefully we'll stream a little bit of that. If you're local, we've got a trunk show with Natalia tomorrow night, Thursday evening. So if you want to sign up for that, you can shoot us a message or give us a call. 2 here, Kate, 1 here. That means this is my side. But we'll be back with our Stash Busters series on Monday. Oh my goodness. This is so bad. I'm really hoping I cut this one wrong. I gotta measure this just because it's so off. Nope, my piece is perfect. So my cutting is good. It must be my sewing that is bad. Not bad. It is. It's really off. So I'm going to line up this side. Look how much is hanging off, you guys. It's 1/4 of an inch. Of course, that has to be on camera so you can all witness that I'm not perfect. I don't know. That one looks a bit fat. Do you have an idea? So Katie is asking, do you have an idea on what I could do for the center that doesn't take any more than about 20 inches of white? Are we talking about the center of the blocks here? 20 inches. So this quilt in total calls for 7 fat quarters of background. You could put any color in there. You know, a traditional log cabin, the center was always red, and that indicated the hearth of the home, and the logs indicated the building of the home. Do it in just a high contrasting color. Throw some black in there, or use a color that you're not using in the quilts already. And just do something that maybe is going to give some nice pop. We had shared this pattern last summer of 2017, and so many people entered their quilts. We were giving away free quilting of their quilt when they submitted their finished projects. And the winner did not use white background at all. She used grays. It was awesome. Awesome. I'll tell you, Zenobia, you were lucky you got that one back. I liked it that much. 2 here, 2 here, only 1 here. So now, my orange dots are touching again. How bad is my piecing this time, guys?
Could it have been the wrong side that you put it on the other one, or no?
I don't think so. No, because it would have been off considerably. That's okay. I'll just trim it. I won't die. That's the important thing.
It's just a happy adjustment.
That's right. It's an opportunity to learn. I'm going to chalk it up to that. Or to stop talking and pay attention, perhaps. But that will never happen, I promise you. She talks too much. All right. Yay. 1 out of 3 is not bad, right? Hi there. More deliveries. That's the UPS man. Okay. Last seam to sew, and then we're pressing again. Now I'm constantly adjusting. If I can see that my bottom fabric is shuffling around, I'm going to stop and adjust. I don't like to just sew over that and hope that it'll turn out nice, because I know if I pause and pay attention and be careful, that it will line up nice. So it's worth the effort, right? They're not giving this fabric away. It's not cheap. You got to do the best job you can with it, right? So you get the best possible project. All right. Huh? Ah, welcome back, Cloudy. Claudia is our friend from Germany. She has her own quilt shop over there. And she was here in October. And then we all went on to Houston together. And man, that was so much fun. You can check that out. If you go all the way back on the Facebook page to October, you'll see some of our hotel room shenanigans where Landon and Claudia were sleeping under Claudia's award-winning crystal-covered quilt. I'll bet it was. So her quilts are always made of silk and embellished with and I'm not even kidding, this is not even a little bit of an exaggeration, 30,000 Swarovski crystals. It is one of the most beautiful things you will ever lay eyes on. So they're joking around and sleeping under it in the hotel room. And it was just a fun video. We had so much fun. So fortunate to be able to do these fun things. All right, press, press, press. Last one, and then we're on to the last log. Erin is asking about my yellow ironing surface. This is called the roundabout, and it spins. Isn't that fun? So it consists of a base, and that is the turntable, you know, your record player of sorts. You also get a cutting mat. It's got a non-slip surface on the back, and you place it on there and you can do your cutting. So later when I square up my blocks, I am going to be able to lay them out on here. I will square aside, spin it around, square aside, and I'll be able to just spin this, whereas what I normally have to do is lift and place and lift and place, and that just feels like effort. I want to quilt. I don't want to put in effort. So it comes with the two different surfaces, and you have the option to use whichever you like for whatever job you're on. And this would be great for taking to retreats and that sort of thing, because, you know, you can have it right in your area. And then you don't have to get up. You can just sit and sew. All right. We're on to the last log of each of these blocks. Now, if you haven't got the pattern yet, you're going to go to sparrowquiltco.com. You're going to click on my face, and that will take you to a form where you can put in your email address, and then you can download this great pattern. It'll reply with an email with the pattern attached for you. And then you can follow along in the fun, or you can get to it later when you feel like it. It's up to you. Free pattern's a free pattern. Free is always good. Well, maybe not always. Most of the time it's good. So here I am back to lining up bang on, and that is a relief for me because I'm on camera and everybody is watching me. Now this is probably your last chance to share the stream, guys. You're going to share this video, and that will enter you for a chance to win the prize that we're giving away. Our prize is the Ideal Seam Gauge and the Ideal Seam Guide, which I am using to help me with my precision. Just disregard all that mix-up that I did earlier. Pretend the piecing was perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take a moment and just quickly square this because I don't want to have to fiddle around. So I have got here a squaring ruler. What I really like about this type of ruler is it comes with this grippy sandpaper called Slip Stop, and it really keeps my ruler in place. Whoops. Which we all know is a good thing because rulers sliding around is the last thing we need. So I want to make sure that I'm cutting this edge square because it's easy to just plop down a ruler, and then if your cut ends up like this, then your block won't be square. So what I'm going to do is use a line on my ruler, and I am lining that up with my seam. And so that is going to make sure that the cut I'm making is at that 90-degree angle that I'm after. There we go. And my slip stop on there is just going to keep everything in place. That didn't look good at all. It slid all over the place. Makes me look like a liar. Okay. There we go. Make a quick little snip there. And now, look, all evidence of my mistake is gone. No one will ever know. Oh yeah, I just did it on video. Everyone knows. Switch these out again. Okay. So now this is going to be my last log on this particular piece. I'm going for this wild and crazy cotton and steel. Do we sell those there at the store? We sure do. Are you talking about the roundabouts? Yes. Yep, those are available here at Sparrow Quilt Company. All right. Now that lines up really good, as it should. It's what I like to see. Just tell those blocks, if you don't behave, I'll cut you. Trim you down to size. Make sure my bottom corner is nice and lined up, and then I can just feed those through. All right. Now here, again, I've got a little bit of a jut, so I'm just going to go ahead and fix it now so that I don't have to worry, because when I go to line up my next piece and this is on top, when I go to sew over that, I'm kind of guessing where my piece underneath is, and it's not as easy to stay accurate. So that's why I go ahead and trim it, then I'm done with it, and I don't have to worry about whether things are square or whether they're going to line up the way I want them to. Cut it from the right side up. And again, I'm going to line up a seam. So the outer edge of the ruler is lined up square along this bottom part that is accurate. The marking line on my ruler is on the horizontal and is lined up with a seam there. And then I am ready to trim that away. I just changed this blade. Better behave. Okay. Shuffle, shuffle. Okay, so this is my last side, and we are going to go with the orange dots because that's what's left. Oh, she lines up perfect. So let's bring this over to the sewing machine and sew this final seam. Good, we're coming up to noon here, guys. I'm going to announce my winner shortly. But just a reminder to tune in and watch us on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the Stash Buster series. If you like long arm quilting, you can tune in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where we stream live from the long arm loft upstairs. Sounds fabulous, doesn't it? It is awesome. We got 4 machines upstairs. 2 of them are computerized, 2 of them are manual. Computerized finished customer quilts. Manual are driven by customers themselves coming in to rent the machines. So that's pretty cool to watch. You can see our nephew Dylan up there running that show. Okay, so we're going to set that seam. And we're going to open that up. I got a question. Oh, my ergonomic cutter. Laura asks, what kind of cutting wheel am I using? And that is my rotary cutter there with the red handle. Not your typical cutter, that's for sure. It is a a different shape than what you are used to seeing. And the idea of the design is that it's ergonomic. So you notice that I can use it while I'm sitting down. And that's a good thing. We don't always have the energy to stand and cut, cut, cut. And it is available in the 28 millimeter, 45 millimeter, and 60 millimeter. It's also available in right hand or left hand. They're both the same price, regardless of right or left hand. And it is, so it's very different in the fact that it has a different style guard. The way you hold it is different. And I just find that it's a lot less wear and tear on my wrist and my index finger. And I just have a lot less pain in my wrist and hand when I use this style of cutter. So you can check that out at sparrowquiltco.com. All right, guys, have you chosen a winner for me so I can give away my prize? Look at my blocks. My goodness, I was productive today. Only an hour and a half to make these 3 blocks. You're probably all thinking, if she had stopped talking for even one moment. Toss you what? Yep. Don't want that stuff. There you go. Landon's going to give you a close-up of the block. They turned out really nice. I'm happy with these sunny little orange blocks. If you're interested in seeing any of our prior videos, you can visit us at sparrowquiltco.com. There's a Stash Busters page where you can go, and we've got all the prior videos listed there. The first one was supposed to be just a test. They turned on the camera, they turned on the microphone. I had no idea. So I'm singing and I'm talking to customers and really just looking a little bit out to lunch. But it's worth a laugh. If you don't want to be entertained, just skip to the 13-minute mark of that video and it gets to the good stuff where I just talk about how to select your fabrics and I spend some time cutting them all out. So last chance at questions here, guys. If you've got anything that you want to know about, go ahead and post it in the comments there quickly. And I will try to address you. Oh, thanks, Laura. That's so nice. Yep, we are all human, and you know that's the biggest thing that I try to stress to my renters that come in and finish their quilts here on the long arm machines. Humans are not perfect. Why do we expect quilts to be? And I get the whole idea of quilting for show and the perfection that is required for that level of quilting, but I got to admit, I don't think 90% of quilters quilt for show. So if you are just a regular everyday quilter like me and you make mistakes, it's okay. It is okay. You can always work with it. And if you can't, just cut it off like I did. Do you want to... Hi, Kathy. Oh, I'm so glad you're watching. I know you're stash busting. You're the queen of stash busting. In fact, I want to have you on my show. So think about it, okay? Kathy Strassen, my good friend Kathy here in Edmonton. She literally makes just the scrappiest quilts I've ever seen in my life. And she is a big fan of Bonnie Hunter, who is probably the queen of scrap quilts. And yeah, she just makes a lot of really great quilts using what she's got. And I really admire that. So our prize for today is the Ideal Seam Gauge and the Ideal Seam Guide. The winner is going to message us with their mailing address, their phone number, and their email, please. You'll send it right to our inbox on Facebook there. And if one of my producer types ever chooses a winner for me here, I can announce that so I can make your little day. Okay, Tara Penn, you are the winner of my seam guide package today. So Tara, please shoot us a message with your phone number, email, and your shipping address, and we will get these out to you, okay? I want to thank you all for watching. Okay, they say I need to keep talking. That shouldn't be a problem. I'm really, really good at the keep talking department. like I was about to say, keep watching our Stash Busters series. We will be working on this quilt throughout the month of January. We're going to see it right through to the end, right through to the machine binding. I repeat, I do not hand bind quilts. You can ask Kathy Strawson. I barely bind quilts at all. And Claudia will also tell you. We went to the Houston show and she said, Bradie, do you notice anything about all these quilts? They have binding. And if you've been to my shop, you will notice that none of my quilts have binding. Slowly but surely, I'm working my way through them.
This one right here.
Okay, well, I am just being shown a note. We are asking if you enjoyed our show today, please go to Google and leave us a review. We love to see your comments and thoughts and hear feedback from our customers. We're always looking to improve. And I think that that is what we all have to be honest about. There's always room for improvement. And like I said, we're humans, we're not perfect, but we're always trying. Never hurts to keep trying. All right, so go find us on Google, leave us a review, go to sparrowquiltco.com, download this pattern, go to the Stash Busters page, watch the videos, learn all the tips and tricks, and keep following us along as we continue through the Stay Centered quilt pattern right to the end, to the binding. You may even get to see us quilting it up in the long arm quilting loft. Are we good to wrap her up now, guys? Okay. Thanks, Georgetta. The quilt behind me was made by Sheila Vanderlinden. She is our very good friend and staff member. She'll be working back here starting next Monday, January 15th. We're so excited to have Sheila back. Anyways, I'm going to wrap her up now, guys. Give you a break from my relentless talking. And I will see you all probably on Monday. It won't just be me. We'll have Natalia here. We'll do a little bit of fun stuff because Natalia is fun too. And we'll be back to the Stash Buster series on Monday. Okay? Everybody take care and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.